Good morning, everyone. Nice to be here. As Jim said, my name is Susan Callery. I just retired in February from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, where I led the Earth Science Public Engagement Team, and our job was to lead all Earth Science communications outside of traditional media, so websites, social media, and public events. I also managed NASA's climate website for many years, and now I'm active locally with the SLO chapter of Citizens Climate Education, which is part of the Citizens Climate Lobby National Organization. I'm a climate warrior, mother of 2 grown children, grandmother of 2, and protector of wild orangutans. I'm involved in climate and environmental action because I want to ensure a livable planet for my children, grandchildren, future generations, and for all species and ecosystems we depend on. As a science communicator, it was my job to take that, and turn it into interesting visual and written information that people who aren't scientists could understand. It is really hard to make climate science understandable for a lay audience. It's very complicated. So I'm going to give you an example of the kinds of things we were up against. So I was in a meeting with some project managers and project scientists and some science communicators. And we were talking about satellite altimetry. Now, I know what satellite altimetry is. It basically measures the height of the ocean or trees or heights of anything on Earth. And I said, look guys, nobody's going to understand what altimetry is. And they argued with me and fought with me about it. And one of my friends came to my rescue, who was a science communicator and oceanographer, and she said, let me give you an example. A friend of mine is a meteorologist. He went out on a blind date. They got to the restaurant, exchanged pleasantries, and the woman he asked the woman who he was with what she did for work. I don't remember her answer. But she turned and asked him what he did. He said, I'm a meteorologist. And she said, true story, oh, so you study meat. Yeah. So a lot of people know that NASA studies our solar system. We have astronauts in space. We study, the universe. But a lot of people don't know that we study Earth, and we have since 1960. And right now we have 19 satellites in space, with many more planned by the end of the decade. Next slide. We also use aircraft, balloons, and other ways to study. So I'm going to try to summarize climate change in just a few minutes. The most basic concept to understand is the greenhouse effect, which is why Earth isn't frozen. Greenhouse gases actually prevent heat from the sun from escaping back into space and keep Earth at a comfortable temperature for us. So the causes of modern warming are well understood. We've removed carbon from stable geologic storage and burned it, releasing greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide and methane into the atmosphere. More CO2 leads to a warmer atmosphere. Less CO2 leads to a cooler atmosphere. Right now, CO2 is 55% higher than it was at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, all due to us. And this amount of CO2 hasn't been this high for millions of years, long before humans came along. The climate crisis is real and affects every one of us, regardless of our background, our beliefs, and where we live. It's not a distant problem for future generations to deal with. It's a pressing reality that demands our attention and action right now. Temperature now has increased by about 1.5 degrees Celsius compared to pre-industrial times. The average surface temperature hasn't been this high in 125,000 years, since hunter-gatherers existed. About 90% of the heat from global warming, from our emissions, goes into the ocean. Since 1971, the ocean has trapped heat equivalent to about 25 billion atomic bombs. Modern society developed during a long period of climate stability, a Goldilocks period. But now we are facing unprecedented changes that are occurring 10 times faster than at any time over the past million years. These changes aren't just inconvenient. They threaten the ecosystems that sustain us and the biodiversity that we need and the livelihood of billions around the globe. In conclusion, the climate crisis is the defining challenge of our time, but it's also an opportunity for collective action and positive change. Each of us has a role to play, and together we can make a difference. Thank you.